So what we're now seeing is we're hooking basically the whole platform into three things. The first thing you're actually hooking into is a system called PACS, okay, which is a patient archiving system for radiographs. Okay, you've now just seen a whole bunch of things happening. Without me touching a thing, you're actually seeing basically us to go through each one of the slices. Now, if you think about this, a lot of things have just happened behind the scenes here. First thing I didn't tell you is this actually runs on Amazon, the whole application. Okay. Second thing is, so it truly is a cloud-based service application. Could be called software as a service, could be called platform as a service. It all works really well under all of them. But what you're really seeing is we're actually going through all the 67 slices for this one patient. And what you're seeing is, you know, I can kind of stop this. You can actually see, you know, the heart's in the middle. You can see a couple of things. What doctors actually start really worrying about is when they actually see little white masses or big white masses like that. Okay? And one of the things that you really want to do, and Dan, by the way, is seeing that same red mark, is you really want to start looking at those slices and say, I've got a problem there. And the next question is, as I start looking through every one of the slices, is it going to go away? Because really what you're seeing is the end of capillary. Okay, and it's sliced through the capillary, and you think that might be a mass. So now what's happening is we're going through each of the series here. So one of the important things is that we can, for example, just decide that we want to jump ahead to this series, okay, and we'll actually look to see what actually is developing. So think about this as in a large medical center, where the radiologists are actually very, very distant from each other, yet they have to share information. One of the things which I have found out is, in general, all around the world, doctors don't communicate very effectively. It's a terrible thing to start thinking about, but they don't basically communicate effectively in the sense of person to person or person to patient. Okay, clearly the end doctor always does communicate with his patients, but you have doctors that are locked up somewhere deep in the hospital that don't. So that's just basically what we found from, you know, the first thing. Next thing is what we'll do is I can actually decide that, you know, we can just basically wipe things out if we really want to. Or I can move things around, things like that. Or I can actually go down and show you a very, very different type of enhancement that, in theory, I can do this. Okay, and remember we have the same patient here, and we just move some of the stuff off on the sides. And what we're going to do in this case is actually do a fly-through. Again, this is all taking data that came out of a CT scanner that's been very, very enhanced. And what we're going to do is say one of the interesting things that, you know, we're on the path to go do here is actually set the whole thing in motion. Okay? And as we set this in motion, one of the obvious things you're going to see is we're flying through someone's trachea. And Dan and I are basically seeing, you're actually seeing his mouse movement now. He can do whatever he really wants. But as we go down the trachea, and we can basically set the, you know, the speed of this, okay, you're flying through, and you're going to actually watch out when the bronchi open up. Now, why am I showing you all this? We've shown you a bunch of different types of applications. In all cases, the applications really became very cooperative, but they weren't at the beginning. Okay, we've, in essence, added the cooperative web capability to it just because the platform allows it. Now, what's really going on here? Am I actually sharing the screen with Dan? Absolutely not. Dan and I are actually going in and looking at a specific web address, which is actually at the top here, the URL. And any change that I do, actually that message will get sent to him as an XMPP message. And he will then execute that message, and the same thing comes back to me. This way we keep the design very, very small in terms of changes. Now, clearly audio and video is going to be a pretty large you know, amount of data going at the same time. So here basically is you know, where we're going to leave off. Now, What we're going to do now is come back to the Blue Theater, and we'll finish up with a few slides. Okay, Dan? So up to this point, we've shown you basically a bunch of different types of settings, some finance, some basically pure web real estate, and then we've showed you a bunch in medicine. The ones in medicine actually are the sweet spot right now for us. Not only because there's a lot of money funneling through into medicine, but more importantly, it's actually the place where we found out that we can add the most value. Now, as we're going down this path, okay, whoops, that's absolutely the wrong one to go to. And now I got to think about what the URL was. This is the great thing about a live demo. Do you remember the URL it was on, Dan? It was public.
You were on a file up your file system.
No, I wasn't actually. I was sitting on. All right, we'll get it off my file system. It's easier. We're not going to share this with Dan. So a couple of things happened. I forgot the URL that I was on. That actually I was pulling it off of Mobile Me. Finishing things up, okay. Really what we're going to do is walk you through two things. One of them is a file that's not coming up. Really not having a good day here right now. The file's corrupt. That can't get better than this. There's more than one way to skin this cat. So what you've seen basically is the demonstrations. The next piece that we're really going to talk to is what's really changing. Okay, and what's really changing is the whole concept of how you look at applications. So from the standpoint of a mashup, what you did was assemble wire. Okay, and then you shared that with others. And the others might be everyone on the web, or it just might be folks in your little work group. The next thing you really wanted to think about was, how do I basically then start looking at cooperation? And that's what you saw today. Next thing that's going to go through is I want to basically amplify this. And when I say amplify this is, how do I basically make it very much ubiquitous? Okay, and the only really way of making things ubiquitous is really focusing on delivering everything through the web and the whole web paradigm. And start thinking about how people can participate. You actually saw two things today. One of them, besides the whole platform, was the things that we need to actually add. Okay, we're pretty crude right now. Yes, we have a lot of things running, but it's a very crude sense of I really need to hook up to basically a Jabber to get IAM. I also, on the same token, have to start thinking about how I can bring in a lot other REST-based services. One of them actually is, we're building this right now, called Radiology Theater. And in this case, you really want to look at, since folks are very decentralized in the world, you want to bring in specialists to look at a specific case. Okay, so what I want to do is deliver basically all the pieces that would typically happen with, in this case, someone with a heart problem, and then go through quote-unquote grand rounds, which used to be done in person. Now it's not. Okay, so this is some of the things that we're looking at. Now, what did you see? What's going on behind the covers? Okay, the actual Blue Spruce server does run on Amazon. Okay, it actually performs all of the conference management, all of the synchronization that goes on, and basically all the push services. What it doesn't do is the audio and video. That's all person to person. Okay? Where we are right now, when you start thinking about it, is we run on Windows, we run on Mac, and we support right this second both IE and Safari, and Firefox is shortly to come.